What is the position?
No, the court has the charge sheet.
Yes, I do have the charge sheet and also all the exhibits.
May I just have to, for the appearance, to place on record, Your Worship?
Oh, yes, you may.
And the appearance page I can attach as well. Also. Julie, if you're ready, we can start. Julie, just signal if you can hear me, okay? Case number 3/4067 of 2019, State versus accused number 1, Julius Malema, and accused number 2, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. Today's date is the 1st of July 2022. Presiding officer, Mr. Punsemi, prosecutor Ms. Hart, legal representations, advocate holders. Matter is on the court for further evidence, Your Worship. Defense case, please, the court.
Thank you. Just before we do proceed, the parties is aware of load shedding.
As the court is, good morning, Your Worship. Your Worship, we were informed there'll be load shedding from 10 o'clock. That's why I wanted to try to get as much court time in as we can until 10 o'clock, and then we'll have to assess the situation.
I am in agreement with such.
Thank you.
Thank you, Advocate Orders. In the interim, Mr. Malema, Mr. Ndlozi, may be seated. Thank you, Advocate Orders.
Please, the court, Your Worship, I call accused number 2, Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, to testify.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Can you indicate to the court your full names and surname?
Mbuyiseni Ndlozi.
Ndlozi, do you have any objection taking the prescribed oath?
No, I do not.
Do you consider the prescribed oath to be binding on your conscience?
I do.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. You swear that the evidence that you are about to give will be the whole truth, nothing else except the truth, so help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you.
Please, the court.
Your witness.
Dr. Ndlozi, you are the second accused number 2 in this matter relating to a series of events that took place on Saturday, the 14th of April 2018. I want you, please, to watch His Worship's pen as an indicator of when to talk and when not to talk, so that proper notes can be kept, and to relate to us what happened on the day of Saturday, 14 April 2018, please, sir.
On the 14th of April, we woke up very early in the morning to attend the funeral of Mama Winnie Mandela. And I was the spokesperson of the economic freedom fighters at the time. And my duties most of the time meant that I would travel with the president of the EFF, Mr. Malema.
The accused number 1 in this matter.
Accused number 1 in this matter.
Yes.
As a result, in that morning, I went to his place. We were fetched by a car after the cars had been swept, which was at all times escorted by JMPD vehicles. We went to the stadium and went through the necessary checkpoints.
What type of vehicle were you traveling in, sir?
It was a V-class. We arrived at the stadium.
You say V-class, what
Mercedes-Benz. We arrived at the stadium and went through the necessary checkpoints, parked at the basement of the stadium, which had been designated for I assume people that were in the program and close family members and former heads of state. We attended the proceedings, and after the proceedings went to the same vehicle and exited the stadium in the manner that is being escorted and joined the long stretch of cars that we going to the cemetery.
Cars, would it be accurately described as a convoy?
A convoy, yes, the convoy of the cemetery, which included the hearse, There was a small parade before we exited around the casket, and we proceeded to Memorial Park and properly escorted again. Arrived there, and at the gate we were stopped.
Before you go this way, can I ask you this? En route from the stadium to the Memorial Park, were the roads open to all and sundry, or explain the situation to us?
To the best of my collection, each and every off-ramp was blocked, even including the roads inside Soweto. It was a clear path, and the entire activity had been coordinated by GMPD. So upon joining the highway, all the off-ramp and on-ramps had been blocked, including when we entered fourways. You couldn't intercept or get into the convoy in the middle if you were either a pedestrian or with a vehicle. So we arrived at the Memorial Park. At the gate we were stopped, and we were 4 in the car. I was sitting at the back with accused number 1, Mr. Malema. And we were not quite clear. It wasn't clear to us why we were being stopped. And when we inquired with the driver, he said that there had been a concern about credentials. And then a few seconds later, it's like we were being refused entry. Mr. Malema requested him to open the doors, and got out and tried to engage the police officer concerned. The police officer seemed not to cooperate and went to block the car in front with his arms stretched using his body. I then went out on the other side. I tried to also engage the police officer concerned. He was not listening. He just kept saying, "We are not allowed entry." I tried to, at first, pull him in a form of, I think you should move. But the police officer simply resisted without doing much. But the way it was in such a way that my pull could not have an effect on him, but had an effect on me. So from there, we tried to remove him from the vehicle, and he kept coming back using his body to push back.
Now, this police officer that you're referring to, is that the first state witness, Colonel Venter?
Mr. Venter, yes. He tried to, we kept removing him, he kept coming back to block the vehicle. And because that was his activity, in that situation, I mean, understandably resulted into him pushing us, although with his body. So the idea was we have to push him as far out as possible so that we could enter, because we had the right to be there. And then a whole lot of people started intervening, including police officers that were standing on the side. And they were talking to us and not talking to him at first. And we indicated that, why are you talking to us? Why are you not talking to him? Because he's the one blocking our right to enter, or at least intervening with our right to enter. And then they held him back. They started talking to him as well, and held him back. We were requested nicely to get in our car and proceed to enter, which we did. I think that should suffice.
No. You were in court and you heard the evidence of Staff Sergeant Mapiza, who said that he stopped the vehicle before it got to the gate. Did that take place?
Not at all. There was no one that stopped us. The first person and the only person that stopped us is Mr. Venter at the gate.
Now, when Mr. Venter stopped, we refer to us, the you in the plural at the gate, was he preventing the vehicle or the people, or both, from entering the memorial park?
It's both, because even upon engagement with him, his statement, at least to me when I tried to pull him at first, he said, no, you're not allowed to enter. Throughout the whole fracas, he maintained that we are not allowed to enter.
Now, let's break it down if we may. Did this vehicle have an authorization or permit to enter?
Absolutely it did. And it went through multiple checkpoints. And it passed through those checkpoints without any problem, because there was a visible permit on the windscreen.
Did you have credentials to enter?
Absolutely. I had credentials, they were on my neck.
And the other vehicles, the other people in the vehicle?
We all had credentials. We couldn't, I assume, the entire operation of a category, of that type of a category of a funeral, means that we couldn't even get to the stadium in the manner we did. We couldn't get into the parking lot, the basement in the manner that we did. We couldn't exit. We were next to very important people, both in the country and the continent.
Which leads me to my next question. So how did this make you feel?
Well, it was when we received, at least I received information that the police were, some detective was requesting audience with us in relation to that particular incident. I initially thought they are coming to apologize. I thought that they were coming to...
I think you misunderstood my question. How did you feel at the time at Memorial Park?
Yeah, but I was trying to get there that I felt fundamentally violated, denied not just my freedom or our freedom to movement, or the freedom to access Memorial Park, but also the dignity to mourn. Somebody that we had a relationship with, somebody that, despite having that relationship with, we had been on countless moments told that we may not be able to smoothly attend her funeral. At that instance, when Mr. Venter acted in that manner, and even refusing any form of engagement, and physically refusing us to enter the Memorial Park, it was a fundamental humiliation. It was a fundamental violation of our dignity, and in the strictest sense of it being a right. So that's basically how I felt all the entire time.
And were you prepared to comply with Mr. Venter's request that you not proceed into the Memorial Park?
We couldn't. The rights that we had, the checkpoints that we had been subjected to, he represented the state as he stood there. He represented everybody that swept the car, everybody that gave us credentials, everybody that kept checking them throughout the stadium for different designated areas. So how could he, out of the blue, it would have been completely uncalled for. So I was not personally going to comply, because all the rights that I had, not even a police officer at that instance had the right to interfere with our dignity, interfere with our right to mourn, but also interfere with our right to be there, take into consideration that we had been cleared.
And I apologize, I interrupted you earlier. You were speaking about a request for an audience subsequent to the event.
When I'm saying that, I must have confused. When I received the call that there's a detective looking for us in relation to the incident at the Memorial Park, I thought they're coming to apologize. Because you see, perhaps Mr. Venter had been confused for that 5-10 minutes, but he would have done his homework subsequently to realize how deadly wrong he was. And maybe upon that particular realization, the institution of the SABC felt it important to come and apologize to us.
And what did it turn out to be, sir?
They turned out to subject us to this entire humiliation that we've been going through for the last 4 years.
Meaning?
Charge us, find us wrong, or try to find us wrong, possibly jailed for fighting for our rights to mourn.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Ms. Hart, cross-examination.
Dr. Ndlozi, I'm going to start with the funeral program of late Miss Winnie Mandela. You have seen the program, am I correct?
Yes, I have.
You also attended the funeral at the stadium and also at the cemetery.
Please
You
try
also
to
at-
project. I can't hear
You
some
also
words.
attended the funeral at the stadium and also at the cemetery.
Yes, I did.
Sorry, Tuli, just put on if I talk too soft, please. Just let me know. Okay. So you had insight to the funeral program. I'm going to ask a question. You were not a speaker at the stadium, is
No,
that
I
correct?
wasn't.
Your name does not appear on the funeral
No,
program.
it does not.
Thank you. I'm going to go to the statement of late Zinzi Mandela as well. I believe Advocate Holders would have shown you the statement that she made. Have you seen the statement?
Yes, I have.
You've seen it. You've read it as well?
Competently.
Okay, thank you.
Just one moment. The first question, which refers to
The program.
Exhibit A, which is then the program. And then the second question, which relate to the statement made by Ms. Mandela, would be Exhibit E.
Thank you, Bishop.
Whenever you ask questions with regards to
Exhibit.
this, just please refer to the exhibit number as well.
This is the court, Your Worship. So I'm referring to Exhibit E, Zinzi Mandela's statement. You've read it, am I correct? You've had insight to it.
Yes.
Thank you. Is your name appearing in the statement?
No.
Thank you. Do you agree with me? Only the name of accused number 1 is appearing in the
I
statement.
agree with you.
Thank you. Okay. I want to know, you've seen the video footage, we've played it over and over again.
I have.
At what point, when accused 1 got out of the vehicle first, were you still in the vehicle at the
Yes.
cemetery? You were still in the vehicle?
Yes.
Accused number 1 also mentioned the protector also got out of the vehicle. Okay?
Yes.
But what I want to know, when accused 1 got out of the vehicle the first time, both the protector and you were still in the vehicle?
No. He got out almost at the same time as the protector. Yeah, I'm not sure. I
Who
think
got out first, accused number 1 or is it the protector?
Mr. Malema.
Okay,
Yeah.
so accused number 1 got out first.
It's a bit of a
I
Yeah.
understand it was...
open
it
the door.
happened very fast.
Open the door.
Yes.
Let me get out.
Okay.
And then he starts to get out, and the other one also starts to get out.
If you say the other one, it's the protector.
Yes,
Okay,
indeed.
just call him the protector so that we know who you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay. After the protector, did you get out of the vehicle?
Yes. I did.
Okay. So, accused number 1 testified of these strangers, he called them the bypassers, were also pushing Colonel Venter. Okay? Were you still in the vehicle, you specifically, when the strangers, let me call them strangers, were pushing Colonel Venter?
No. When I realized that Venter is not cooperating with the president, You see, Venter went to block the car. That's the point at which I went out. And at first I tried to say, but what are you doing? We have all the rights to be here. He said, no, you're not allowed to enter. And then I tried to pull him.
Okay.
I'm saying that the effect of me trying to pull him is of such a way that I stepped back by his force,
Okay.
the force of his hand.
I'll get there. I just want to know
Oh.
in sequence what happened. You will explain to me the pulling, everything. I just wanted to know when the strangers, they are the first people, according to accused number one, that pushed Colonel Venter. When these strangers was pushing them, where were you at that moment? Or did you see it?
No, that is why I was trying to explain, if you will indulge me,
Okay, I will indulge
for
you.
the understanding of your sequence.
Okay.
Mr. Malema gets out, tries to persuade Mr. Venter. That seemingly does not have any success, and that is signified by Mr. Venter going to physically block the car at the front. I get out. I'm the first one to be with Mr. Venter on the other side.
Okay.
We didn't use the same door.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so the car has two doors. I get out on the other, he gets out on the other.
Okay.
He goes on this side where Mr. Venter was. Mr. Venter ends in front. I get on the other side to try persuade him on the other. In that persuasion, upon him, trying to let go of my hand, but in a way that pushed me, we started to push him with these other people that I am, unfortunately, I'm unable to say who they are.
It's fine. That's why I call them the
Yes.
strangers. We don't know who they are.
The strangers, yes.
Or the bypassers accused number one.
Bypassers, yes.
But what that, Your Worship, may I just have, before I proceed, just, Mr. Baba, can just set up the put it, Your Worship.
You may approach.
Your Worship.
And just leave like this. And
While Mr. Baba is playing, how many strangers did you more or less see pushing Colonel Venter, if you can recall?
Maybe 3, maybe 4. I
Maybe
don't
3.
have the correct recollection.
And all of these strangers was all pushing Colonel Venter at the same time.
I cannot say that. Same time is a strong word, don't you think?
I don't know. I'm asking because you were saying all of them are pushing them. So I want to know if all of them pushed them at the same time or is it different times. Colonel Venter, you were there, so I need to understand your evidence.
They're pushing.
They're pushing.
I'm unable to accurately describe the synchrony.
Okay, I'm going to play the video footage and then you're going to tell us what we can see.
It's not in the video footage.
It's not in the video footage.
You know
Okay.
that.
Okay, so that part, it does. So you need to just answer my question.
I am.
So that part that you're saying of the strangers pushing him, I understand it's not in the video footage. When you went to Colonel Venter, you said you pulled him. Where
Yes.
did you pull him? On his body?
I grabbed his hand to try remove him from the car in a pull position.
So you were pulling
I
towards
was trying
your
to
side.
pull him after he said we're not allowed to enter.
Okay.
I tried to pull him, and then, but he was too strong, so he simply let go. But the effect was in such a way that he pushed me.
He pushed you?
Yes.
Okay. You made a gesture with both your hands when you said you pulled him.
Yes.
Can you just demonstrate again?
I was trying to
just
pull him.
for the court to
Yes.
note on record.
The
not
camera
sure
is
if the court-
between me and your worship. I don't know if you will see. Ordinarily, any pulling, your worship is like this.
where did you grab him?
On the hand.
On
His
the
hand, yes.
Just for record purpose, the court have observed that the witness hands is in front of him, showing him, indicating that he grabbed the complainant by his hands and then pulled him towards
Yes.
him.
I couldn't pull him with my ears, you
Is
know,
the
your worship.
observation
No, you
correct?
couldn't.
Mr. Ndlozi, if the court speaks, I do not want you to make any further comments. Mr. Otis?
I agree with your worship's observation. It's difficult over the camera, but your worship
Yes.
came to an angle and made certain that your worship saw it.
Thank you, Mr. Otis.
Thank you.
Ms. Hart?
Thank you, Your Worship. So you pulled him by the hand. He was too strong for you. Did he pull his hand out of your grip?
He pulled in a way that did this. So he does this.
That's
Yeah,
Colonel's
he's
action.
pulling, but he's pushing at the same time with one hand.
With one hand.
Yeah,
And you somehow released his hand.
of course.
You
I
released-
released his hand because I felt the force, you see.
And you making this.
I,
Or did you
I was pushed. I said constantly that the effect of that hand gesture on his part resulted in me being pushed back.
being pushed back?
Yes.
Okay. Colonel Venter is now free of your grip.
Yes.
You are moving back. Then what
Yes.
happened?
Then I pushed.
Then you pushed him.
I pushed him now towards the opposite direction to try and remove him from the car.
Okay, if you say remove him from the car, where was he, Colonel Venter, then exactly? Was he in front of the vehicle or at the side still?
In front of the vehicle.
In front of the vehicle. Okay. When you said you pushed him, did you use both hands when you pushed
Yes.
him? Both hands. You don't know. So when you pushed Colonel Venter, what happened next?
He kept coming back. You see, he's a very large man,
Yes.
very tall. Because I pushed him, I know he has a lot of strength. So he kept coming back and used his body to apply force back.
If you say he's coming back, can you explain to us what you mean by that? He kept coming back.
I don't know how else should that be explained.
Is he now walking towards you now? You say he's coming back. You've pushed him, okay? Is Colonel Venter walking again towards you, or you moving forward towards him?
me. I'm now in front of the car as well.
Yes.
So he's coming back with his body. If you watched soccer, they push each other a lot, but they don't use their hands
So,
to try and get to the ball. So in this case, he was using his body to push back, so we sort of don't enter. He pushed back so that he gets to the position he was in of blocking the car.
okay. So, if you are saying he pushed back, he's using his body, not his hands.
Yes.
Is he pushing, using his physical body, pushing it against you,
Yes.
your body?
Yes. Isn't it I'm pushing him? So after he goes like one step and then he comes back.
Back. With his-
Yes.
with
And
his-
then he's pushing, because if his object is the car, if he's trying to get to the car, at that point I'm between him and the car because I just pushed. So he comes back, pushes me out, gets to the car. I come back, I push. And this time I try to be a bit stronger because I realized I'm dealing with a mountain of a man.
And were you stronger? Were you able to move him?
Oh yes.
Is it? How many steps did he move?
Maybe this time 3 times.
3 times.
Out of balance.
Okay.
But there he is back.
Okay.
Very tall. So to get back to me, he probably has to take, if he went 3 steps back, he may be going to take 2 back. He's back.
Okay. So the second time you are not pushing, you using much more force.
No, and there's like many of us now.
Is it okay? So it's not just you.
Yeah, well, at first it was just me and then many of us.
Okay, so let's get to that. You've now explained to us when it was only you. The second time that you are now pushing Colonel Venter. The reason I'm asking it in detail, because this was not put to Colonel Venter, how exactly each one operated. So I want to know exactly on your version what happened specifically with the assault and the pushing. So now you are pushing him the second time with much force. Colonel Venter is moving. You are pushing him, somebody who else is pushing Colonel Venter at that
These
time?
strangers.
The strangers?
Yes.
Was accused one also pushing him?
He came at a much later time. Yeah. I mean, after the strangers, he joined.
Okay, but I need to be specific. Remember, you're telling me about you now pushing, but I'm talking about the second time. Is it in your memory or not? Did, when you were pushing him with more power, pushing Colonel Venter, was accused one also pushing Colonel Venter?
I don't remember.
Okay.
I don't remember. That sequence would be very difficult to recall because my eyes are on Venter.
Okay.
My entire objective is to push back against what I see as a physical mountain of a man who's refusing me entry.
So, you can't remember, but you are certain that you pushed the second time and the strangers?
Yes, I went for the second time, pushed him, he came back, and now there were many of us.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you remember the protector?
No, I went out. I thought Venter is going to be a reasonable police officer. So I'm going through multiple shocks that also make one angry, taking the state of our emotion into consideration. So I don't want to put my neck out, Your Worship, on who was where, because my focus was on Mr. Venter, who at that time was the violator, the provocator, and was the obstacle towards realizing these rights.
Okay.
No one else was, except him.
You agree with me on the I'm going to play you the video footage as well, but before I play, I don't know, can you remember on the footage?
Yes.
Can you just play, Mr. Baba? I'm going to talk about the BMW, the X5 vehicles. Just play. You just post, you see the BMW, the X5, the black?
I remember them.
You see the blue lights?
I do.
Okay, play Mr. Baba. And the second one is also now going to approach.
I do.
Okay. Just for you agree with me, your vehicle came after the two X5 vehicle.
It
you
is
remember?
self-evident.
Yes. You'll see kind of thing, or somebody's boot there, let me put it that way.
I cannot hear you.
I said you will see somebody's boot, maybe just there at the bottom. Somebody's shoe.
What must I do with the shoe?
No, I'm just saying can you observe somebody's shoe?
Can I what?
Can you observe somebody's shoe on the video footage? Somebody's foot. Okay, just stop there, Mr. Baba. This is now the first part of the assault that we can see on the footage. Which side of the vehicle did you get out? If you can recall.
I got out on the left.
On the left-hand side.
Yes.
Okay. Play Mr. Baba. Just stop there. Accused number 1. There is accused number 1. And Colonel Venter is standing in front of this person with the umbrella. And accused number 1 is behind this person, in the middle. Continue, Mr. Baba.
I'm not sure that standing is a correct description.
Okay, it's fine.
Yes.
Describe it.
He wasn't standing.
Who was not standing?
Fender was not standing.
Was he not standing?
No, he
What
was not standing in front of anybody.
Oh,
He was
no.
moving, trying to get back to the car.
Okay. Continue. Stop. Do you see the 2 police officers?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Do you see the 1 police officer's hand is up?
I see their hand is up.
Do you see that this police officer, we can't exactly see what she's doing, but she's now also there. Continue. Stop there. You just go a bit back. We see where, I want to exactly know your part. We see accused number 1, just play again, pushing Colonel Venter. Here you are coming around, just stop there. I'm just pointing so that you can focus on that side that I'm going to ask. That police officer's hand is up, like this, towards you. Can you see that?
I'm not sure if it's towards me.
It's towards you. I'm
It's
posing
towards the
specifically.
right.
But you are
You're trying to
standing
make me the subject of her hand going up.
Mm.
I'm afraid you can't do that.
And on the
I'm not sure what she's pointing at, but she's pointing to the right.
Okay. But her hand is up in front
To the
of
right.
your chest.
Yeah, that one I agree with you.
Okay.
Yes, to the right.
To your chest.
No, my chest is not on her hand.
No.
We're not watching the
You
same
can
video,
see
Your
her.
Worship.
Are we not? You can come closer. She is pointing her hand. Sorry, Your Worship, let me speak on the...
Pointing.
Yes. Her hand is up and her hand is facing to your chest. You are standing in front of her hand.
So, a hand that is up can be up for many reasons, Your Worship. A pointing would at least be a finger.
No.
That would be a pointing. So this gesture
Yes.
could be interpreted in many ways. I'm afraid I cannot speak for her. What was she doing with that hand?
Are you...
But it's pointed towards the right, and I happen to be on the right.
Yes. So I'm going to put it to you that she is stopping. She's trying to stop you. Her hand is towards you, to your chest. The second police officer's hand is also up. Also in a stopping gesture, but that hand is, and I'll give it, that hand specifically is not directly pointed at you. But I will leave it for argument. Accused 1 is now pushing, play Mr. Baba, Colonel Venter, you agree? Stop quickly. Did you see that accused 1 was on the video footage pushing Colonel Venter?
Yes.
Now you are coming past the police officers. Play. Stop. Pushing Colonel Venter as well.
Yes.
Okay.
I pushed him.
Okay. You are smiling when you say yes, you pushed him. Are you happy that you pushed him? Or you were smiling now, so I'm asking.
I'm smiling, yes. Now, you mean now or then?
Yes, when you were answering yes.
Yeah, I pushed him.
Okay, let's leave it there.
The problem, I'm not happy or not happy. The things you're asking me are self-evident. And these grounds have been canvassed for so many times. And it's difficult emotionally to keep watching this humiliation of myself and accused 1 when our rights were being violated to try and go bury a loved one. So to constantly have to interact with this humiliation, it's not easy.
Okay. Unfortunately, this
Yes.
is the procedure and you have to go through it. Okay? Now, Mr. Baba, just go back a bit. You have now successfully, both of you, pushed him against the wall. Stop there. You agree with me, Colonel Venter is no longer, as you testified earlier, in front of the vehicle, in front of the Mercedes-Benz.
At that time.
At this time, you're coming for him.
Well, not by his intention. He's there because we pushed him to
Yes.
be there. He wouldn't be there, and he kept trying to make his way back. So he's not there because Colonel Venter want to be there.
Yes, but
Yes.
at this time now, you are pushing him. He is not moving. When accused number 1 was pushing him, you are coming. He is now not moving as you testified earlier, going to the car.
Yeah, that's because you paused. So he cannot move because you paused.
Okay,
the
let's
video.
let's just go a bit back, and then we see Mr. Baba. Let's go a bit back. He's just
So you see he was moving.
yes.
Now that the video is playing.
Okay. Mr. Baba, just rewind it back and then play it where it doesn't jump.
He was in front of the vehicle there. You've seen it. He was not moving when you were pushing him. When accused 1 was pushing him, then you came. Colonel Venter was not moving to be in front of the vehicle again. Because you've succeeded in pushing him away from the vehicle.
When we pushed Colonel Venter, he was moving.
Yes.
Yes.
But I'm just saying on this
For,
picture.
for as long as he was moving in the
Yes.
whole fracas, he was trying to get to the vehicle. That's
Yes.
my version.
I understand that.
Yes.
But on this footage, go back. Colonel Venter was not moving to stand in front, to go back to the vehicle.
I don't know how you can arrive at that conclusion because he is moving.
Yes.
You don't know where he's going.
No.
You're speculating.
No, I'm not speculating. I'm watching the video footage. That's all I'm doing. He stopped there. He's now not in front of this vehicle. Here you are coming. Play, Mr. Baba. Was he going back? I can see he's not going back to stand in front of the vehicle as you testified.
Mr. Venter was moving, even in the video when we pushed him. That's number 1. That is self-evident. 2, his movement up until the police officers, I think, held him back. He had been trying to go back to the vehicle. The vehicle is not far from
No.
where we are pushing him from. So the intention is to make sure that he doesn't stop us from entering, and that is stop our vehicle from entering, because we had all the rights.
Okay. When you two were pushing accused 1 and you were pushing Colonel Venter, his side was towards you, was facing accused 1 and accused and you.
The point is he was moving, and for as long as he was moving, his motion movement at all material times was to try and get back to the car. It happened multiple times until the decision to push him was to make sure that he's as far back from the vehicle as possible.
So
At
when
no instance, even in that video that you just played, is Colonel Venter standing. He's not standing. He is in motion at all material times. And I'm saying that the understanding that I'm rendering now is on the basis that at all material times he was trying to get back to the vehicle's position.
just go back. So when you were pushing him here, you are coming from around the corner. Accused 1 is pushing him. Accused 1 is succeeded in pushing him to the wall, if I can put it that way. You are coming. His back is towards accused number 1. Colonel Venter's back. So accused 1 successfully pushed him. Continue. I'm going to ask you to pause. Stop. Colonel Venter is moving, but I'm going to put it to you, he is not moving to stand and block the vehicle.
Firstly, that his back was against someone doesn't mean anything, because he was using his back even to push back. I tried to demonstrate earlier on. Venter won't use his hands. He never used his hands. He kept using his body to get back to the vehicle. And to the extent to which he kept coming back, using his body, different multiple sides of his body, including his back. At that instance, the idea is to keep him as far from the vehicle as possible. And there's a wall, so the proximity between the wall and the vehicle, it's not very huge distances. He can make 2 steps back. He's a tall man. He can make 2 or 3 steps back. He'll be back in front of the vehicle. So the motion, when you have to think about it, think of those diameters, think of those distances. Here is a mountain large man with very long legs. He makes 2 steps back because the distances are so small. He keeps getting back in front of the vehicle. And he doesn't use his hands. You will not see him. He's large enough to just keep coming back, and there we are being pushed back, and then we push back.
You agree with me, you and accused 1 were charging at Colonel Venter. You were moving towards Colonel Venter all the time.
Moving towards him.
Towards him.
And we couldn't push him unless we moved towards him, isn't
Yes.
it? Okay.
Just confirming. His back specifically now is towards you, accused 1, police officers, everyone.
He's back at that position. It's not out of his doing. You have paused the video. He was pushed. He's not there because he wants to stand with his back against us.
But the point is, his back is towards you.
But it's immaterial.
No, it is.
I'm not sure because Venter was not using his hands to push
he
back.
wasn't.
He was using his body and the back.
Colonel Venter is being pushed by Hughes 1.
You see, he's going back.
He's going that side of the vehicle, coming to the... He's moving. Oh, he's away from the vehicle. Again, pushing him against the wall. You have already, accused 1 has already successfully removed him from the vehicle. And you are also coming the second time to make sure probably that he doesn't come back, but you came back again to push him against the wall, both of you.
To make sure that it doesn't come back.
Yes.
You've just answered yourself.
Yes, you wanted that. You wanted to make sure he doesn't. But on this footage here, playing it without stopping, Colonel Venter is not moving towards the
It's
vehicle.
not true when you yourself said just now. Colonel Venter was there, went back to the vehicle, is pushed out. So it's not true that at no instance in this footage does he not try to go back to the vehicle. We saw that. You said it yourself. And the point I'm making is a much more simple, very accessible one. Colonel Venter kept trying to go back. And at
If
the
you
point
say
at
go
which...
back to the front of the vehicle.
Yes,
Okay.
he kept trying to go back to the front of to the original position of blocking the vehicle. Interpreted, he's trying to get back to mean he wants to stop the vehicle, because that's what he did when we removed him. He kept trying to do that. So at this instance, which you are trying to capitalize on, it's the end when we are successful, but in my head is to try and make sure that he doesn't come back by going as far away as
Yes.
possible.
I agree, that is what you are saying. But my point that I'm trying to make, you want to remove him away from the vehicle. That is your mission, you and accused 1, not to let him stand in front of the vehicle. In the video footage, accused number 1 has already, on his own, pushed him away from the vehicle. You are coming from your side and also pushed him where he fell against the wall. He was not at that time moving to stand in front of the vehicle to block it.
It's a very dangerous speculation because that means you know what Colonel Venter's movement was at that instance. He was moving. You confirm that. You saw it. I'm saying that at all instances, I'll be very slow. At all instances, he kept trying to move back to the position of blocking the vehicle. My intention was to keep him away as far as possible from going back to the vehicle. So good, if you think about it, was this intention that he had to be held back He had to be in order for him to be stationed, that he was no longer a moving target. He was in motion at all times. Only did he become stagnant or stationed on the police officers holding him back.
Okay, we'll play it. You see, the vehicle is coming in.
Do you also see that he's
Stop
being
there.
held back, Your Worship?
Stop there. You're talking about.
Yes.
I'm giving you a fair hearing. You're talking about this person with a military uniform putting his hand on his shoulder.
Yes.
Or arms. Okay. He is holding him. That's on the video footage. Do you see that that man was releasing him? He's no longer holding him. Play,
Because
Mr.
another
Baba.
person is holding him.
Play, Mr. Baba. Who's holding him?
The two police officers, initially the one and the other one is now joined.
They are not holding him, sir.
They were, and now because he's stationed, they don't have to hold him because he's stationed. If he was trying to move again, you will see they were going to hold him like they put him there.
I find it very strange. In the video footage, and we've played it again and again. Accused number one had enough force to move Colonel Venter. Why did you feel the need to get out of the vehicle? Or to participate in the assault?
You possibly didn't hear me properly. I got out of the vehicle. I was the first to interact with Colonel Venter, joined by strangers. And the need to go and pull him away was after I realized that conversationally, he had refused to be persuaded by the president of the EFF. And I tried to pull him. I wasn't successful. I pushed him first time, and then I pushed him second time. There are people who are also pushing him, none of which is in the video.
So is this possibly where we can see in the video footage, possibly where you are coming now to also push him after accused number one? Is that possibly maybe the third time, or where
Maybe
you are now coming, or the
let's call
fourth?
it the umpteenth time.
The MPS. Okay, where you are now coming
Yes.
to push. So you've already pushed him on the other side. where we can't
I had
see.
already been engaging
Okay.
with Colonel Venter's physical motion.
You already, okay. When you got out of the vehicle, what was the first thing you said to Colonel Venter?
I said, what is he doing? What are you doing? We have the right to be here. And he said, you are not allowed to enter. Then I grabbed him.
When he said you are not allowed to enter, at that time, did he use any force on you when you were speaking to him and he was replying to you?
His force was on the car.
No, I'm talking on force on you, on your body.
No, I'm not the car. So his force was on the car.
Okay,
which
so-
is the car I'm with.
So the answer is no.
Well,
he did not touch you.
No.
Thank you.
But he was blocking my car.
He was blocking your car.
Yes.
It's fine, we'll get
His force
there.
was on the car.
Okay. But on you, no.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Did Colonel Venter say anything to you when you grabbed his hand?
I don't remember.
Don't remember.
And I mean, to me, that's the only time I could comprehend Mr. Venter was when he said, you are not allowed to enter. But he was speaking a lot of Afrikaans, which I have very little access to.
Did you tell Colonel Venter that, but we have a right to go in?
Yes.
Did you tell him at that time?
Yes.
Did you tell him that the vehicle has a right to go in?
No, Colonel Venter was not cooperative. He's already applying force.
I understand that. I'm just asking, did you ask?
No,
You did not ask. Okay.
I didn't. We did. He was not a man willing to have a detailed conversation about our right to be there. He was a man whose continuous position, physically and verbally, you're not allowed to enter.
Okay.
The rest of it I didn't hear because I have very little access to Afrikaans.
Okay. Did you try, when you were trying to engage with Colonel Venter, did you try to speak to his supervisor, his senior at that time?
I don't know his supervisor at that time. I don't know who is his senior at that time. I'm seeing a man hell-bent on violating my right.
My question is, okay, did you ask Colonel Venter, but where's your supervisor?
No, he was physical. He was not willing to be conversational. He was physical. The first act of physicality was to grab a car, my car, the car I am in. It will not move. That is his physical language.
Okay.
It will not move by the force of my body.
That you explain that to us.
Yes, so I mean, I'm saying that this, and you interact with such a person, they tell you you're not allowed to enter.
But when he said you're not allowed to enter, did you say, I want to speak to your manager, your supervisor?
No,
Because
I tried to pull him that, okay, my sense was maybe if we go to the side and have a conversation, he might understand or something.
Oh.
And then the language of his body did not seem to be a man willing to have a conversation.
So you wanted to pull him aside to have a conversation with him?
Yes.
That was your intention? Oh, good.
Yes, that, hey, Chief, maybe, like, let me...
Speak one-on-one
In the
maybe.
meantime, obviously, I mean, that was the intention of pulling.
Okay.
Okay, maybe if you come, but the language, the response to the pull was decisive.
So he was not happy that you are now pulling on him?
I don't know the state of his emotions, but it was decisive, it was forceful.
When he pulled back, it was forced.
It was forceful. He pulled pushing. He
But-
pulled his hand back pushing. Yeah, it's quite a good motion, like let go of me and then also push away.
But maybe that's a reasonable response. You are pulling on him now. He doesn't know what your intention is either. He doesn't know that you want to speak to him on the side just one-on-one and try to resolve this matter.
I think Colonel Venter is fully aware, as an officer of the law. He's been canvassed from the driver, he's been canvassed from the president of the EFF. I'm now canvassing him. It's very clear what his intention is. It's very clear what his state of mind is at that point.
But I disagree with you. And the reason I disagree with you is because, as you explained, you were talking to him, you were asking him, what are you doing? We have a right of way. And he said, Colonel Venter, you are not allowed to enter. And then you pulled him on his arm, as you said. He, at that moment, doesn't know what your intention is either. He is just seeing somebody pulling on my arm.
I disagree back. I think Colonel Venter understood what he was doing. I think Colonel Venter had been canvassed. I was not the first person to engage him about our right to be there. I was not the first person to explain that we have credentials. I was wearing my credential on my neck at all material times. You are not allowed to enter was a very full-blown statement that you are not going to enter, because it is said in a position of physically blocking the car. It is said in a position, he was in a language of the physique now. He was, I'm not sure how else we are supposed to read a police officer physically blocking your car whilst you are trying to get an explanation of, I've got a tag, the car has a permit, on what grounds are you not allowing us? He goes and blocks the car with his body. And then I say, what are you doing? You're not allowed to enter, but we have all the rights to be here. What do you mean? So I tried to pull him, and he was much more forceful. And then I pushed to try and take him away from the car, because now, in my mind, I'm fighting for my right.
Okay. The reason I'm being so going on the pulling and the assault, because this was not put to Colonel Venter, because I need to understand you, what you are saying now. When you pulled, my question to you is, your intention was to speak to Colonel Venter one-on-one.
Was to remove him from the car, and perhaps if I get him on the side,
Okay.
then I can make sense to him. That was unsuccessful.
But did you use your words just to say, Colonel, let's speak. Colonel, let's sort this out. Colonel, Let's talk.
No.
Thank you. Mr. Baba, just play the footage, please. Just tell me, it's fine. Your vehicle is entering, both you and accused one is now in the vehicle, am I correct?
Yes, you are very correct.
If I'm correct, this is the hearse that's entering. Any other vehicles entering after your vehicle besides the hearse? Any other vehicles that entered?
On the video?
On the video, yes.
No, I don't think so.
Do you want me to play back? Or you?
No.
Okay.
I think that's fair.
I agree with you. It's only the hearse that entered.
Mm-hmm.
The hearse is reversing. People seems to be walking in. Seems they're making preparation to take out the coffin. Just to play back vehicle, because they're not out of the vehicle. Just go back. The huge. Not too much. Stop there, Mr. Baba. I'm not going to be long with you, Arlene. You are now, what are you saying there? You are now talking to...
This is just for the record, we need to record that it's been rewinded because...
Oh, sorry, I've rewinded the video footage. Just back to where you and accused one are now. The assault has happened. You are now talking to someone, to people there. What are you saying there?
I cannot recall verbatim, but the point of the interaction at all material times was, why do you not talk to Venter? Why talk to us? Why you're not stopping him from violating our rights?
You said something interesting. You said, why were you talking to us? Who was talking to you?
The officers.
The officers that were standing there in uniform?
Yeah, the people that you are pointing at as talking to me, therefore asking me what am I saying to them. That's what I was saying.
Okay. At that moment, play Mr. Baba, nobody's holding you back, nobody's holding accused one back. Accused one is shouting, you are pointing. My question is, at that moment, why did you not just walk in?
Was angry, were provoked, humiliated. That was a humiliation what Mr. Venter did. The state of my emotion certainly
Okay.
was one of anger out of being seriously mistreated, out of being undermined, when I've got all the rights and the clearance by a person who is part of the institution that gave those clearances, a person who's part of the institution that should protect the rights. That was my state of emotions there. That's why we're trying to tell the police officers, it's not us you should be talking to. You
It's
should be engaging Venter. He's
Colonel
wrong.
Venter. But what about the humiliation on Colonel Venter?
I'm not sure how is he humiliated. You'll have to canvass that.
But
In
you're-
what way?
You are talking, he's being assaulted in front of the whole South Africa. I think, if I'm correct, there might have even been international coverage on this funeral, possibly, I'm not sure, but at least this funeral of late Winnie Mandela was national news. Everybody saw it, all of us, people were watching. What about Venter's humiliation? Being assaulted by you and accused one.
Your Worship, I'm very surprised because until the case started, no one knew this video. Until we came to this court, the footage was not known, it was not part of any news at the funeral or during the funeral. I'm not sure if the humiliation of Mr. Venter has to do with multiple audiences. It was not us who laid the charge. It was not us who... We saw the video in the media, but that's way after the funeral. So you are very wrong. He was not humiliated. This video didn't happen in front of the world, as you suppose. You're saying in front of an international community. No, that is actually wrong.
Okay.
That's factually incorrect.
So let's say everybody knows the video footage now. You are saying you were humiliated. What about Venter being humiliated in front of all these officers, all these strangers that were there that saw it? What about his humiliation on this specific day in front of military, army? What about his humiliation?
Mr. Venter represents the state. He's not acting on his behalf. He's representing an institution that must oversee that the funeral goes without an incident. He shouldn't cause the incidents. He should make sure that the mourners have a correct platform, an amicable platform to mourn a loss in their lives. He's engaging mourners. He comes because he's got that power at that instance. He's a powerful man in relation to this particular instance. The power relations are on his side. He's wearing uniform. He's got the power to stop who comes in and comes out. And even when he's demonstrated to, yes, I mean, we came here maybe 2 years after. It still didn't occur to him. He still didn't care whether we had the right to be there or not. That's an institution. That's a person representing the institution that must protect the rights of the mourners, seeing that the instance or the incident or the occasion was a funeral. No, Mr. Venter is the institution in this case.
So
Mr. Venter is exercising power in this instance. The fact of our successful resistance of that power is the coincidence of our successful resistance of that power would not result into any form of his powerlessness.
You know,
He's powerful. He's the police officer.
Yes, he has, as said, he was in charge of the gate, access control.
He's not mourning.
He has a duty.
Exactly, to guide, to protect the law, to make sure that the mourners mourn in peace. And he interfered with those rights. He violated the law. We know today that we had the right to be there. He may have not known at that instance, but he knows subsequently. You know subsequently. The whole country knows subsequently that we had the right to mourn. We had the right to be there. Mr. Venter interfered with that right. Mr. Venter violated that right. And then laid a charge. Videos were released subsequently, not really for Mr. Venter, for our humiliation.
Then
We are the ones who are answering.
Then at this point, while it seems accused number one's back he's now moving to the vehicle, you are still engaging with some officers. Why at that point?
That's not humiliation. He's being corrected.
Listen, that's my question. Why at that point did you not just walk in?
We did.
Leave the vehicle.
We
walk,
did.
not drive in, walk in.
We had the right to be in with our vehicle. Those are the rights Venter had to protect. Otherwise, we shouldn't have been subjected to an entire procedure over days, over hours of being cleared. We had the right. It's immaterial. Venter is on the wrong. And we know
Venter-
now as a fact.
You are saying Venter is on the wrong.
Absolutely.
But never once, when you saw, according to your version, I'm not saying Venter is wrong, but according to what you're testifying, Venter is wrong. Not once did you or accused one say, we will now speak to a senior. He is in the wrong. Let's follow some procedure. Let's speak to a senior. Let's go there. There's military, there's army, there's somebody there you could have spoken to. But both of you decided, let's assault Colonel Venter. And afterwards, you wanted to speak to whoever is going to listen to you or accused number one.
Mr. Venter's language was physical, was forceful. We are mourning. We are mourners. We have all the rights. We talked to him. Mr. Venter responded physically.
And you and accused,
We had to fight.
you
We
responded
had,
physically.
We had at that moment to fight for our right to mourn.
And if
The funeral and the program are on a time. There's a time. We have to go in. We have to participate in what should allow us a healing for the loss that we had just experienced. We engaged now we know a very well experienced police officer who responded physically. Now we know.
And your response.
So I'm saying to you, he responded physically. He was not a reasonable man. He was not. His response was to immediately be physical with our car.
With the car. Not you, not accused number one. With the car, according to your version.
Yes.
He's physical with the car.
Yeah, he went to block our car.
Okay. Accused number one, when he testified, I want to know if you stand with accused number one, what he said. He said something, I was not going to reason with anyone who is going to stop me from burying my mother. He testified that. Do you feel the same way?
I think it's legitimate. I think it's a legitimate feeling that any reasonable human being should understand. The statement must be understood in the context.
But my question is, are you standing the same?
I'm answering your question.
Or you agreeing with him?
I'm answering.
Okay, answer.
That the statement must be understood. I'm saying that, first of all, it makes perfect sense to anybody who will reasonably apply their mind. The context is a very large one. We're in a funeral completely controlled by the state, subjected to multiple checkpoints by men and women of uniform, some carrying guns. Our cars are swept, we're made to wear tags on our heads, on our necks. We comply up until that point. At that point, we think there must be some mistake if Mr. Venter could be spoken to. He's spoken to by the driver, he's spoken to by the president. His response is physical. He goes and physically blocks our car while saying you're not allowed to enter.
Okay.
So for a person who acts in that manner, it should be qualified as unreasonable.
So unreasonable.
Mr. Venter was 100% cerebral. He was unreasonable.
You said something very interesting. There's maybe some mistake on Venter's part. There's maybe some mistake, you just said. And if there was some mistake, if, for example, he did not get the message properly from his superiors or his seniors, if there was some mistake, this whole incident, the funeral of late Winnie Mandela, this whole assault, this could have been avoided, sir, if both of you spoke to a senior at that time.
Mr. Venter, and I repeat, I don't even know if you know the senior. I don't know, I mean, the inference of speaking with some senior person whilst you're being engaged physically is not a very good expectation on the state's part. Here is our experience. We are in a funeral, completely guarded, controlled, directed by the state with its full might. Men and women take of uniform with guns, take us through multiple checkpoints with dogs. We've been engaging these men and women of uniform from very early in the morning. We don't expect an unreasonability from a police officer unless they are part of Buremag.
But you know, there's always, Colonel Venter is in charge of the gate. There should, and there's always, with police officers, with the ranks, there's always a senior. There's always someone you can talk to if you are unsatisfied with any police officer's behavior.
I don't agree that that's always the case. I don't agree. I'm saying that this is a funeral. This is not, we're trying to enter a university. We're not, or trying to enter some party. We're trying to enter a funeral, which is on a time. We're trying to mourn. The state of our emotions is a very important one. The state should know us. Because our tags had our faces. The state should know us by name and surname, should know our faces. The state should know that we are coming. Hence the checkpoints and the sweepings and the credentials, which we complied with throughout. The unreasonable behavior of Mr. Venter seemed to us to be a direct violation of our rights. And in this case, it's the dignity to mourn.
Yeah. If you had just asked both of you, where is your senior? Possibly General Zulu was there. At that time, we don't know where she is, but there is a senior. General Zulu was there. Maybe she would have come to speak to you before the assault.
If
this could have been avoided.
If General Zulu was the senior, General Zulu let us in. From what I understand, General Zulu is one of the ladies in blue uniform. If that's General Zulu, everybody except Venter kept saying, comrades, guys go in, guys go in. Just get in your car and get in. Get in your car and get in. If General Zulu is the senior of Mr. Venter, then they did let us in. And they were completely, in the manner of their communication with us, Your Worship, they were completely sympathetic. Completely sympathetic.
I understand. General Zulu did not let you in.
They were even saying, come down. I understand. Go to your car. Come down. He's assuring us that Venter is not going to do the back and forth he had been doing with trying to stop us from entry.
I can argue the different point. The people were saying, go to your car. They didn't want this assault. They could have meant, I don't want this assault. I don't want this humiliation on the field of late Winnie Mandela.
That would be very...
Is this a question or argument? Because it's not making any sense with respect.
Your Worship, the witness has said this is what they were understanding. These witnesses were never called. There's another possibility of what these...
Court will allow it.
Thank you, Your
You may
Worship.
proceed. If you want the question to be repeated, or are you able to answer?
Maybe she must repeat it.
Repeat the question.
You said these officers were saying, calm down, calm down. They were sympathetic to you and accused one. They were saying, go to your car. Am I right? That's what you said. You were shaking your head. Just say, That's what you meant.
I'm
just
waiting for the
repeating.
question,
No,
Mama.
that is what you said. I'm just repeating what you said. Am I right to understand you correctly?
Yes. Now
Okay.
that's a question.
Okay. Now, what I'm saying is, they could have meant go to the car. Yes, we understand there's an incident, but just go to the car, go to the car. We don't want this assault. There's a possibility they meant that. We don't want this assault, this humiliation on the funeral of late Winnie Mandela.
They did not want our humiliation, and I would want to believe that being officers of the law, they appreciate that that car could have not gotten there without it being safe, without it having the rights to be there. It is with individuals that are wearing tags, they have the rights to be there. The sympathy is certainly on our part. Otherwise, the state's entire protocol was futile. If, at that instance, any car can be let in just because Venter is being pushed. Now, I'm saying to you, you will always misunderstand this entire event if you disarticulate it from its context. This is the state. This is the state. This is the full force of the government.
If you're saying the state, are you meaning
The police? Yeah, the police, men who are
Just
sworn
the
in, men and women who are sworn in to protect the law.
I'm just following, you're just meaning the SABC, police.
Yes.
Okay.
This is the
Continue.
state. The state has been in charge. And its charge doesn't start at the gate, Your Worship. So any officer who is competent knows that this car could have not arrived here unless it had all the full rights. And if there was a dispute, they couldn't take the side of the pushers unless they were sure that the pushers, in this case, myself and the accused one, had the right to be there. Because it would be a risk. The entire protocol is meant to avoid risks, some of which include bombs, include agent provocateurs entering to disrupt the funeral procession. They must have been thinking in full light of that entire procedure that they were allowing us to enter.
Exactly. So there should have been a senior on duty. It is the state, as you just said.
Having a senior
Let
does
me
not-
finish. Let me finish. Thank you. As you just said, SABC, the full force of the police, they are in charge. There is, if you are unsatisfied, if you have just asked, I believe if you have just asked, can I speak to your senior, your supervisor, somebody would have come. Because SABC, as you said, is in charge.
The idea that Mr. Venter, who had been engaged, was going to give us a senior. Our reading of Mr. Venter, based on his dismissal of us conversationally and his physical language, is that he was not a man who was going to answer any questions. He's not a man who was going to say, no, let me call my senior to us. Certainly he didn't say that. He didn't even say that he's going to verify. He told us we're not allowed to enter. So the idea of any reasonable person in that context, with a mountain of a Venter acting in that manner, physically, to think he's, again, the person who's going to give me a senior, who's going to not think he's in charge, who's not going to think he has the power to stop the car, who's not going to think I am not allowed, that's a very unreasonable expectation. We tried to engage Mr. Venter. That attempt might have led, to that possibility. He was not engageable. Mr. Venter told us we are not allowed to enter, went to physically block the car, refused to be removed in a pull position, which he responded with a push, and then we kept pushing him, he kept pushing us back to try and stop us from entering. That's the context. That's the manner of a man we were confronted with. He was not a reasonable person. He was not a person who was going to give me his senior.
But you didn't ask. Am I right?
Because-
But you did not ask.
Because Mr. Venter was not engageable, did not have the opportunity for a decent conversation to take place at the point at which I was engaging. He was physical.
He was physical.
Yes.
And physical, not laying his hands on you, but physical just with his body.
You need to respond, sir?
Yes.
Alternatively,
Your
if
Worship,
there's no answer.
I'm hoping that the court will appreciate that has the same effect. To say that he didn't use his hand to push and he used his body, it has the same effect. It is a push. Push is a description of force effect. So Mr. Venter pushed back many times to try and block us from entering. He did. You saw it in the video that they played. So to say that he didn't use his hand to try and invalidate or make futile the fact that he was physical, I think that it's seriously immaterial. At least as long as my answer is put in that context.
I'm going to ask you a last question. Did you feel your life was in danger? Your life, besides your dignity,
yes,
your life.
Yes, my life was in danger.
How was your life in danger?
Because my dignity is my life.
Is your dignity your life?
Yes.
And everything could have been avoided.
If Venter respected the law.
And if you just said, I'm speaking to a senior.
No.
It would not? Okay.
No.
Okay.
I completely disagree and I wish to explain again.
Okay.
Venter was not a man. You know when a person you're speaking to...
Sorry, you said Venter is not a man.
Was not a man who was going to be answering questions. He was physical and unreasonable. He did not give us a chance to reason with him. And certainly in his behavior, he didn't seem like a man who was going to even take kind asking for an authority other than him.
I will still put it to you, you've never asked. Your Worship, that is my end of my questioning, Your Worship. Please.
Mr. Otis, re-examination.
Dr. Ndlozi, I want to start on this video and then we're going to move backwards. In this video, how many people do you see restraining Colonel Venter?
At least 2.
How many, maybe you should step closer, how many females do you see with blue caps in front of him?
Yeah, I should look.
You're going to stand here.
Yes, you may.
But he needs to respond to the microphone.
Just come around the side to this microphone.
Which side? It's 3 caps, 3 blue caps.
And what are the people that are underneath those 3 blue caps doing?
They are restraining Mr. Venter.
Thank you. Now I'm going to take you back, sir. But before, if you can go back, you stay here for the video, then we can do the video. It's even better. If I may, Your Worship, thank you. Thank you. Can we go all the way to the beginning, please? Now, starting there. Thank you. You see cars coming in. Do you see any blue lights or credentials, sir?
No, not on these cars.
Any sign saying this belongs to the convoy?
No, no sign.
Oh.
No visible sign.
I'm going to show you, Worship, now. No, yes, Your Worship, I'm going to show you exactly.
No.
No. It comes to, I'll move forward on this. If you watch the video, and then I'll ask the question. Those vehicles have gone in, and now is at the point where my learned friend started the video, you'll see, where the BMW X5s arrive. There we go. So this is where the video started under cross-examination, do you remember?
Yes.
Right. Now, I want to ask you, after these vehicles move forward, to look at the video that was shown to you. You'll see it. We'll watch it in real time. I want to go to the point, Mr. Baba, where the police officer's got a hand up where Dr. Ndlozi was asked about the hand. No, it's coming now. About the hand pointing to in his direction. We'll see it now. No. You're going to see Colonel Venter's boot come into the picture, and then the fracas, as you termed it. Once those BMWs move now, it's within the next minute. First umbrella. There's a glimpse of movement.
Just one moment, Mr. Baba, just paused. Mr. Otis, Mr. Malema wants your attention.
I beg your pardon, thank you. Now, if you focus at the bottom now, you'll see, we just see a white image, which you'll see becomes part of the fracas. The video only starts from this point. Was there anything going on to the left of the video now?
Yes, there was. That's where the pushing to and fro with Mr. Venter was taking place.
Right. Now, watch carefully from here, please. Please. There we go. I need to tell you when to stop. Stop. No, sorry, you're not in the video yet. I'll listen to my learned friend. They stop. No, the hand's not up. It's not, it's actually, no, you jumped. You're going to get fired. All right, stop. At this stage, and why I want to go back, can you tell the court what the distance between the lady with her hand up and you is?
At least 2 feet. My feet, not Venter's.
Right, now, before we move on, you've said that Venter's a mountain of a man, you're in the background here, but we've now seen Venter in court and we've seen you in court. How would you describe the difference in size between the two of you?
He can finish me in a fight.
Sorry, but you don't asked with regards to size.
Worship, he mentioned size throughout cross-examination. He did. Mountain of a man, physical, it was mentioned same time. But it's a relative concept.
I will allow Mr. Otis. You may proceed.
Right, now, those 3 police ladies that you identify will go forward never testified, so we don't know what their version is for the state. What do you perceive them to be doing in relation to either you or Colonel Venter? And we'll watch through to the end now till we get to where we were that we began. Please proceed, Mr. Baba. Watch the 3 ladies. What's your perception of their conduct there?
They restrained Mr. Venter to the wall, kept him at the wall with
And
their back against
Stop.
him.
And in this whole process, what has happened with the position of the motor vehicle that you and accused number 1 were in?
It is now entering the cemetery.
So, with all of these police officers and dignitary or police officers, what has happened with the vehicle in the video?
Nothing, it has entered.
Now I want to show you where my learned friend showed you the hearse coming in. If we can move forward to that, Mr. Varma. For the record, there's a gap in time. Your vehicle's proceeded through, and the next vehicle, as was put to you by my learned friend, will be the hearse. It also looks like a Mercedes. You'll see it now. There we go. Now, Dr. Ndlozi, can there be any doubt whether that vehicle is part of the convoy or not?
There can be no doubt because it has the coffin casket.
Now, I'll finish the video, thank you. Yeah. Now, that was the hearse carrying the coffin of Winnie Madikizela-Mandela. In your mind, sir, and even going back, it's 4 years, not 2 years, as you said earlier, but we know as a fact, 2018 and 2022. Can there be any doubt about the hearse being part of the convoy or not?
There can be no doubt it was.
And on the video, which vehicle came through the gate first? The hearse or the vehicle carrying you and accused number 1?
The vehicle carrying me and accused number 1.
Thank you. Now, in this situation, where it was put to you that Colonel Venter was humiliated, did you ever intend to humiliate Mr. Colonel Venter?
No.
What was your intention there at the time?
It had to do with my desire to enter and mourn and participate in the mourning ceremony.
Remaining with the issue of humiliation, you've told the court that you were there as the official spokesperson of the Economic Freedom Fighters. You were accompanied by the president of the Economic Freedom Fighters. You had credentials. Did any of you know who Colonel Venter was
No,
prior to this incident?
we didn't know him at all.
So in a situation like this, where you have dignitaries going to attend a funeral of a close person who's internationally acclaimed, who could possibly suffer humiliation?
Certainly ourselves were members of parliament voted by millions of our people. We command a huge amount of respect in our communities.
Now, I want to go to a very simple thing. It was put to you 4, 5, I think maybe I counted 7 times. Were you aware that there was an officer who was superior to Venter at the gates at the time?
No, not at the time. I could have been. Mr. Venter was not a very conversational person.
So, were you in a position to say, Mr. Colonel Venter, hang on, I want to speak to your senior officer to establish exactly what rights I have here? Were you in a position? Was there any indication? Did it say anything that speak to somebody superior to me? Was there any indication anywhere that there was somebody else that you could seek some relief from?
Not at all. At the time, certainly when I started engaging him, he was already in the act of denying us access physically.
And did any of those officers there say, hang on, I'm going to call somebody superior who can manage the situation?
They asked us to enter. If anything, those officers that were with Venter said to us was, please enter.
Now, we've seen the program, I'll refer to it officially as Exhibit A. There were times when things were meant to happen in this matter. Were you in a position to tell anybody at the gate to stop the proceedings, not proceed with the funeral, so you could seek some relief from a superior officer who may or may not have been there?
This was an event of the state. The state had been in charge from the word go through its multiple forms of officers. The state is stopping us from entering. The state may as well proceed without us, and we lose the opportunity to mourn.
Did anybody present that day say, "Stop it, you're humiliating Colonel Venter"?
No, not even him.
Did the issue of humiliation on the other side, I'm saying from any of the people in uniform, ever come to the fore on that day?
No.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Thank you, sir. You're excused.
That is the defense case, Your Worship.
Ms. Hart?
Your Worship, that's the defense case, Your Worship. We will then postpone. We haven't discussed anything, Your Worship, because it was load shedding. We were just rushing in just to start before load shedding.
Is the parties going to submit heads of arguments again for purposes of judgment, or how does the parties want to deal with the issue?
Your Worship, I am in a position to argue the matter. Out of fairness to my learned friend, we didn't discuss this. I'm not going to take advantage of anything. We anticipated, all of us, as Your Worship, too, load shedding at 10 o'clock this morning. My problem is finding future dates, but I would be in a position to argue the matter. If my learned friend wants to postpone to file heads of argument, I don't mind that either. She's Dominus Litis, let her decide the way forward, and we'll comply accordingly. Obviously, Your Worship, guided by Your Worship. I don't know if Your Worship wants heads of argument, if Your Worship doesn't want heads of argument. So it was always anticipated, out of fairness to my learned friend, Your Worship, that we wouldn't get past 10 o'clock this morning. That's why even Your Worship knows, Your Worship rushed into court at 9 o'clock. I rushed to the extent that I could through my examination in chief, and my learned friend also did for re-examination, and through her cross-examination. I saw her watching her watch, as was I, Your Worship, because we did, unfortunately, by virtue of the way we live in this country, anticipate load shedding. So we're now in uncharted territory, so she can decide the way forward. I can argue now, or I can file heads of argument guided by Your Worship's desires and my learned friend's intentions.
Thank you, Mr. Otis.
Your Worship, we can postpone, Your Worship, for heads of argument. Your Worship, I also do not want to start in the middle of argument, Your Worship, and then it's load shedding. So we can then postpone. I'm in the hands with regards to dates, Your Worship. With regards to arguments, I am also handing back the exhibit, Your Worship.
Yes, thank you. In this regard, Mr. Otis, we will deal with it as follows, as we have dealt with the application for 174. So the court will then only grant one more postponement for the matter, and then the court will prepare judgment on the next occasion. So heads of arguments by the parties is to be received prior to the next date.
Your Worship, may we request, as would be the norm in a trial court, that we receive the state's heads first, so that we get an opportunity
That is
to
how
answer.
it needs to be in this
So
regard,
yes.
because even if you wanted to argue the matter today, the state must first argue.
As Your Worship, that's exactly what I was getting to.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So the state will file to the court as well as yourself, and then you may then file yours as well. And the court will also most probably allow, in the interim, if there's any replies to the heads of arguments also by the parties, and then we can only have a date for judgment.
As Your Worship pleases. Your Worship, there may be issues that Your Worship wants to hear us on, as happened last time, Your Worship. Then we'll have the oral argument just before the
Yes.
judgment, but there'll be a preconceived idea based on the written heads, which I do agree
That
on,
is
Your
correct,
Worship, yes.
Mr. Otis. I'm
As long as we
fully-
have that right still to address, Your Worship.
Yes,
we'll
no.
be happy. Thank you, sir.
I'm in the hands with regards to dates. So this is not looking very happy about dates. Are we still in this month? Okay, that's fine. I want to give you the full
Elizabeth, we don't mean to be rude. We're just trying to arrange a sequence of events. I apologize.
Your Worship, I also want to give full transcripts to my learned colleagues as well, Your Worship. The
We
ones
don't
that
have
we've
transcripts.
received.
With regards to the, okay, first, deal with those issues?
Your Worship, the issue that we're discussing, and I think it's fair that we share with Your Worship, is we need to wait some time for the transcripts, and we'll all have the same records that when we do page references as previously, they'll tie in with each other, will there be consistency? So we need to give some time for the transcripts, and I'm just trying to work
I
out.
just need clarity. That is what I wanted to ask with regards to the transcripts as well, because previously, I believe mostly of the police officers who testified was not part of the transcript as well. Has that been rectified as yet, or?
Not yet, Your Worship. I am liaising with the appeal clerk, Your Worship, to get that as well.
But the CDs of the recordings is available and it has been sent.
Your Worship, it has been sent, Your Worship. I just want to get that part maybe again, because there might be an issue, but I need the appeal clerk to physically come here with the stenographer, and then we sit and then we gather everything, Your Worship.
Just as long as the parties know that the record is totally incomplete with regards to the evidence of the police officers who
Yes, Your Worship,
testified
I picked it up.
concerning.
I told my learned
Yes.
friend as well. I don't know if it exists, but you'd have to slot it in because it doesn't appear from the record. When I did my heads of argument, I pointed it out, and I pointed out to my friend who has tried to accommodate us to get it.
That is correct, thank you.
Hmm? End of September. September. It's a Friday. Friday, 30th of September.
The end of the month, it doesn't at the end of the month.
So do the 29th. Can I just see that everyone's...
We're looking at possibly 29 September, Your Worship, on a Thursday. It's not the last day of the month. That's unfortunate, the only available date for advocate
Your
holders.
Worship, we didn't want to choose the last day of the month. I had put that for them. My learned friend reminded me that Your Worship has a problem because Your Worship looks after the other courts as well. So I had proposed Friday the 30th, but we're going to look at Thursday the 29th, if that would suit Your Worship better.
In order.
Please in order with myself as well. Should
I have another matter that I will be excused from that matter, Your Worship, because there's some uncertainty. And it's set down 28, 29, 30. I'll ensure that I'm here on the 29th. Your Worship.
Confirm the date,
Now we
Your
just
Worship,
need to
29.
arrange the dates of your heads of argument, so that we can work backwards.
I believe, let me first postpone the matter and then we will arrange. If the power do go off, then we at least have
Thank
a
you,
complete
Your Worship. I
record.
appreciate that. Thank you.
You may stand. This case is then being postponed now to the 29th day of September 2022, court number 13 for judgment. The parties will arrange the dates for the court to receive their respectful heads of arguments, and the court will then deliver judgment on the 29th of September. Both of you are on warning and warned to appear at 8:30. If you fail to be at court or to remain in attendance until you are excused by the court, it will lead the court to issue warrants for your arrest. You understand?
Yes.
You may be seated. Thank you, Advocate Otis and Assad. When do I get to the heads of arguments for the state?
Your Worship, we're suggesting the 1st of August, and the reason we're suggesting the 1st of August is just to get the full transcripts, Your Worship, of everything. So the 1st of August, we can then supply to the court and...
This is only for the transcripts.
No, it's for us to reply, Your Worship. In the interim, we will try to get everything together,
Yes,
Your
but
Worship.
when do the court receive your heads of arguments?
On the 1st.
The 1st of
1st
August.
of August.
Bishop, I think then it's fair if I file on the 19th of August. And then if they want to reply, they've got some time as well, Your Worship. That's why I would, they're having it over a month, but they've got to wait for the transcripts. I thought 19th will be fair and give them an opportunity if they wish to put any reply in heads of argument, Your Worship.
Then the court will only give a date until the 1st of September for the parties to reply if we shall, but as advocate holders have indicated, if you do want to reply orally in court concerning such, the court will also allow there to.
As you wish, thank you.
Anything else?
Not from our side, Bishop. Thank you, Bishop.
Ms. Hart, I also believe there were some issues. I was informed by the senior with regards to the evidence file as well as the charge sheet.
Yes, Your Worship. I
Is
just want.
there any documents that any party need with regards to drafting the heads of argument?
Yes, Your Worship. I will just need. We have half of the exhibits, Your Worship, so I would like to make a copy of. The
At this
exhibit.
stage then,
I
a
have a
court,
full set, Your Worship. I can give it.
Can you, if
If you-
then it's fine, Your Worship.
May they just check that everything they need is here?
okay?
May I just have the court, sorry, Your Worship, just to confirm, and then if everything is in order, and then I will ask for the court's exhibits, Your Worship.
Might have one photo on this one, the left.
Just want to take a picture, Your Worship, of the updated exhibit list, just in order to make it easier. Just see, I think just have this one. Yeah, but I'll send it over. Yeah, it's in the- just take a picture. And the key.
He's missing.
No, yours phone isn't.
Defense,
Yeah.
then it's the state.
You've got it, you didn't have phone there.
What's on?
Oh, come. Come.
Court.
Oh, you should come to court.
Bishop, may we inquire, you've written next to O, it says court, I'm sure that's the judgment.
Yes.
Yes.
And then we have the
Defense, and I believe M is for the defense application for 174, the heads of arguments, and N would be for the state's heads of arguments, and then O would be for the court's judgment.
As you worship, you think, we don't have that, so it hasn't been typed as yet. We're obtaining it. Thank you.
Yeah, it is also part of, I have inserted it.
Oh, is there a typewritten judgment?
Yes.
May we copy that? We don't have that.
But I believe it will also be part of the record which was made
Yes.
available recently.
We
as
don't
well,
have
so
it as yet. I think they
I
have it.
believe
We'll sort that.
the
Thank you.
defense is because it is already, I think I've received it yesterday or during the course of this week.
Thank you, Worship.
Is that anything else?
Nothing.
You have everything. If parties, however, request anything, the file as well as the charge sheet is in possession of the court. Is there a court book for the court to sign for today's proceedings? I'll be then in Mr. Lady's office. Yes, thank you. You may stand. The date is still the 29th for purposes, 29th of September for purposes of judgment. You are on warning and want to appear at 8:30. If you fail to be at court, court will authorize warrants. You understand?
Yes.
Court adjourned.
I see you got a transcript of my head.
Yes. I think
Stop the load setting today. I want you to do it more than one.
Well done. Well done.
We need to choose a date. We need to choose a date. We shall